I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sonia, if you wouldn't mind doing roll call?
Yep, Commissioner Digital,
Here.
Commissioner Corbin,
Here.
Commissioner Wire,
Here.
Commissioner Shaw,
Here.
Mayor Lindsay.
Here. You have before you the agenda for this evening.
Motion to approve the agenda. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no appearances or acknowledgements, is there anything anyone wants removed from the consent calendar? If not,
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no unfinished business under new business, public hearing for the temporary retail on and off alcohol sales, Greater Madison Area Chamber of Commerce, downtown Madtown. Jameson, you want to address that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The commission has approved in the past a temporary malt beverage license for the downtown and Madtown events. However, now they're requesting a slightly different license because they would like to add spirit-based seltzer drinks to their menu, which have grown in popularity. So if this would approve, it would allow them to do that, and they would begin on their event tomorrow and continue through for the remaining events for this summer.
Any questions, comments? Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, this is number 2, actually. So approve a temporary retail alcohol license, Greater Madison Area Chamber of Commerce, downtown Madtown. We do have a motion.
Second.
And we have a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 3, approve the first reading of ordinance 1659, amend solid waste ordinances. And I did have a question that from an audience member. What changes are there or were
Yep.
there?
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Mayor. This ordinance updates a lot of our solid waste ordinances. Much of this has already been existing, and so this is sometimes cleanup language, sometimes updating. I'd say the biggest changes are the addition of divisions to cover recycling and the yard waste site, which obviously we have had in operation previously, but they weren't located in ordinance. Other changes simply reflect our current procedures and operations, which set the sizes of containers, requirement to set it out by 7 a.m. Some of those things, there's some deletions in there for things that are no longer relevant or needed. The new divisions that were added, the recycling covers the sorting and collection for recycling, and the yard waste site ordinances covers accepted as well as prohibited items and violations for those items. So it's largely cleanup with some new language in there, but I would say it's accurate to say that it is made to reflect our current operations.
How do we police the waste site out in the edge of town?
The yard waste site?
How are we gonna know who's gonna dump things?
Yeah, I think I might turn to Gary, where he's hiding in the back.
Aren't there game cams out there?
Yeah, we just, we have cameras out there and we try to check every couple days to see what's going on out there. If we find anything that's not out there, we kind of put a notice out there to remind them what we got, and we're not supposed to have. It's been pretty good, knock on wood, so.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Good question.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
And in the past, we've taken pallets, but we don't take pallets.
Yeah, we
anymore out there.
kind of got rid of that because it was pallets turned into everything, so.
Yeah,
So yeah, as a reminder that it's not a tree or grass or anything like that. We don't want it out there.
People are supposed to take the grass clippings out of the cardboard bags, right?
Right, yeah, well, those, the cardboard bags will decompose with the plastic. We need to get the plastic out of there. And then, we'd like to have the branches out of the, grass, just for the fact that they get hot when they decompose. And that's, I think, when we're starting the fires last couple of years is especially hay bales, something like that, break them up, please. If while we're on the subject, absolutely no pallets out there, it's just, they can go to the restricted use site.
Thank you.
Well, I like a cleanup ordinance. Thank you for doing this. I especially like it when it deals with solid waste. So I'll make a motion to approve first reading ordinance 1659.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 4, approved contract with Civil Design Incorporated. Restricted use site survey and design. And Jameson, would you like to address that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, so this is a short form of agreement for professional services to engage with civil design, CDI, to do engineering for the proposed new restricted use site location. So this covers a lot of the design that you would expect for the new whole topographical survey, a boundary survey, preliminary design, the initial cost estimates, final drawings and bid package, erosion control, and then 1 round of construction staking. This service, these services with CDI don't entail everything that we can do to get the new site operational. We are still working through permitting processes with the state as well in the county. But this is one important step moving forward so that this cell gets designed correctly at the new facility. CDI had done the last cell that we dug at the current site, and so we have engaged with them to do the services for the new site.
Questions or comments? Okay. If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve contract with Civil Design Inc.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approve the contract with Forster Testing, Segment 3, Construction, Testing, and Inspection Services. And again, Jameson, you want to address that one?
Yeah, so segment 3 is the utility and street improvements that are being done, that just started this month, over on the northeast side of town. And so this contract enlists Forester Testing to do certain construction testing and inspection services. They would be determining the correct ratio of cement to soil for the soil cement, and they'd be completing additional testing as needed. The cost is estimated at $10,000. So this is services that are outside of the contract that we have with the with Prenti for the construction.
Justin or Ryan, do either of you have anything to add? Okay. Okay, all right.
I'll make a motion to approve contract with Forester Testing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approve the joint powers agreement with the South Dakota Department of Game Fish and Parks. And again, Jameson, would you like to address that one?
One of the perks of purchasing the property for the new city hall and administration building on Highland Avenue is that it comes with a already ready to go man-made pond, which could be used for fishing. So we had discussions pretty early on that the Game Fish and Parks would be excited to start an urban fishery project here in town. So this is a joint powers agreement that states for the fishing pier who is responsible for different actions. The summary of it is that the Game Fish and Parks would at 100% cost install the pier and the concrete to connect that to, and the city would have responsibility for maintenance costs moving forward into the future. It's not mentioned specifically in this agreement, but the whole intent is for us to use for fishing, and so the Game Fish and Parks would be stocking this ongoing each year with catchable fish for our community to utilize. The city would also be responsible for connecting this to a trail or some kind of access for the public. And that will be a temporary surfacing trail while the city administration building be constructed. In the long term, we would have a harder surface trail that would tie that to our parking lot. And we've applied for grant funding for a trail system to take it around the pond as well. So one exciting piece to a bigger plan for this new property.
And just, for those people in that want to fish and take the fish home and put them in the frying pan, that's the whole intent. Okay, is that they will stock it with fish that when you catch it, it's big enough to take home and fulfill your day and your dinner table. Do we have a motion?
I have a question first, I guess.
Certainly.
So, I think I read in there that, we take ownership upon, the construction being completed. Do we have timelines on that? I just don't want a bunch of kids running around the construction site when we're obviously building a new building there is my concern.
Sure, so timeline on the city administration building? Or
Well, timeline of when are they gonna construct this pier where the public will be expected to?
Yeah, so the pier would be constructed this summer yet. And then in relation to the city administration building, that construction would start this fall and continue for a year, give or take.
And kind of the intent in that, as I understand it too, is that a temporary, area, for access would come off from the Cars for Less property and be west of the construction site.
Okay.
So if someone did want to go fishing in that, they would be able to. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Any other question?
I'll make a motion to approve the joint powers agreement between South Dakota Game and Fish and Parks and the city of Madison. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 7, approved task order number 12 with DGR Engineering for the southeast substation conversion. And again, James, you want to address it?
I can give a quick background, I'll ask Nate
And
to
then
step up here as well to fill in whatever I don't cover. So the premise behind this is that we received notification recently from East River that their transmission line will be upgraded from 69 kV to 115 kV. And in order for us to be ready for that, we need to upgrade our substation and the equipment to do that. So we have a standing agreement with DGR Engineering for professional services, and each time we have a project, we have a task order amendment to that agreement, and so that's what you see before you today. I think the important thing that I'll note out is that there is a scope of work outlined, and when you get to the fee arrangement, they only have fees listed for the transformer procurement of 16,000, and then preliminary phase hourly at an estimated 25,000. The other 4 components of this are to be determined, because as part of that preliminary phase, they're going to be researching, investigating to see what we need and what the project looks like, and then they'll be able to have better concept for us. Nate, what else can you tell us?
You pretty much summarized it. This is kind of a can do. We're gonna have to do that for the upgrade for East River as well. It's on the backside of your 10-year plan. We're unfortunately gonna have to move that up to the front side of it as far as the overall electric study, system study, and plans that were generated associated with that. So any questions you have for me that will help make more sense.
Well, in the end result in that, it allows Madison to have a more secure electrical grid and power available met for the needs of the citizens, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So.
I'll make a motion to approve task order number 12, DGR Engineering for Southeast Substation Conversion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 8, award bid 930 for the Northeast 3rd Street Mill and Overlay Project 2023-2. And this is the half-mile from Airport Road east.
Correct, yes. So this half-mile stretch, we had estimated, Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, we were thinking 100 to 150,000. Of course, this comes in higher than that. I will note that we did put some additional work required into the specifications to make sure that this gets done correctly and that we won't have cracks resurfacing within the next couple of years. So we did receive 2 bids from ASCO and Bose Construction. Bose had the low bid of $221,881. At this point, it is a higher amount than we had hoped for, but we know that this road desperately needs improvements, and staff recommend approval.
Questions, comments?
I'll make a motion to award bid number 930 to Bose Construction.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Do we know timeline, how soon that's gonna get done?
I'll defer to Ryan. He's probably just spoken to the contractor recently.
We worked with all the pre-construction meeting with the contractor, and they'll share their timeline at that time, but then you have to be completed by the middle of October. So,
November 1,
October 15th.
October 15. Okay.
It'll be a well-needed fix.
Yeah. indeed.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you, Ryan. Number 9, approve change order number 2, public waterworks renovation.
I'll have Ryan come up with for both of these items. He can speak more closely to them. I will say that, you know, every contractor is a little bit different. In head construction, they prefer to have change orders kind of one topic at a time. So if you wonder why we have two of them in front of you today, it just depends what the contractor likes. So Ryan, what's number 2?
Yeah, so change order 002 is a door size change. Plan set showed a 12 by 12 door and overhead door, and with the slab elevation being different, it actually needs to be a 12 by 14 foot 3-inch door. So this change request would be to make sure we have the correct door size in that opening.
I'll make a motion to approve change order number 2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Do we understand where? How that was missed, or, I mean, the scoping, or,
I think it's just a mistake. I think that they didn't account for the change in the elevation of the floor and simply put the same size door in, even though the elevation of the floor was more, so.
And the size of the equipment that was gonna go in it, I think we just kind of missed
well,
that.
that wasn't part of the scope of the project,
Right.
what we were trying to get in there?
I couldn't say.
I think to your question, what, you know, whether this could have been caught with the original design, I think it could have.
Yeah, I
It was a mistake on the part of the architect.
Any other questions? Number 10, approve change order number 4 with public works renovation.
All right.
Change order 4 is actually a credit in the amount of $680. Gary's there, building official, had identified in a site meeting that some of the vinyl base seemed as though it wasn't really doing anything. There's really no concern for water or anything there, and the siding behind it is enough to do the trick, I guess. And so he had recommended not putting that vinyl base in. It'll just probably get disturbed and damaged anyway. And so that reduction would be $680.
Motion to approve change order number 4.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Number 11, approve change order number 7 for Northwest 9th Street, Union Avenue reconstruction.
Go ahead, Ryan. Thank you.
So this change order would be a couple of different things. One is to add bid item for temporary mailboxes. That'd be 26 of those. And then 3 no construction traffic signs. I'll address the no construction traffic signs first. There's a landowner that lives along the route there, owns property along the route, I guess I should say, that was kind enough to allow vehicular traffic and residential traffic to go through their property as a temporary way to get up Josephine Avenue and then Union Avenue as well. And so part of their stipulation was that there'd be absolutely no construction traffic, that it'd just be residential traffic. And so we want to make sure that happens. And so we want to put this signage up, and then that will allow us to be pretty sure that, you know, subcontractors that aren't familiar with the project, such as, you know, grading contractors or asphalt contractors, will make a mistake and go into their property. The second part is the mailboxes. We had contacted the post office early on in the project and asked them what they needed for postal delivery. And they had recommended a couple of banks of mailboxes. And these banks of mailboxes would make up that 26 quantity at $260 each. So the total change order then with the 2 items is an increase of $7,555.
Ryan, did they think that those mailboxes that they're putting in pedestal type would be permanent or just temporary?
These would just be temporary.
Temporary.
Can we use them on another
Yeah, is
project?
that a rental, or is that are we owning
No, I believe these would be, and maybe Weston can help me out here, but I do believe that these would belong to Traffic Solutions and they would bring these up, set them temporary. And then, at the end of the project, they.
Iris scanners on them.
I don't think they're that high tech. They would be temporary, so they are, Traffic Solutions buys the temporary mailbox. And then they recycle that from project to project until the mailbox gets to a point to where they can't use it any longer. So. I guess if the city wanted to buy the temporary mailbox from Traffic Solutions, that would be an option.
Is this the price of purchase or is this just the price of rental?
This is just the price of rental, so it's the price of them mobilizing somebody up here to set up these banks at the determined locations that we've identified and coordinated with the post office. So they would do the setup, and then after the mailboxes are no longer needed, Traffic Solutions would come up, tear down, and then take them off the site.
Yeah, I've seen those boxes before. This seems to me like we can just put the price of it.
They cost, I did call Traffic Solutions and ask them what their costs or what they had for costs into it. That mailbox a piece is about $50. Now they do get to recycle those, but they still have to buy those mailboxes. They only last a couple jobs from my understanding, because I'm assuming they're fairly hard on throwing them in and out of vehicles or setting them up, putting hardware into them. And then, same thing too, mobilization to the site and then mobilization off site.
So their cost again is
Their cost, from what I understand, is around that $2,000 or $2,500, and the remainder would be the labor. So that, I believe they were asking $67.60 for the 26.
I wonder, do you need? Wow.
I believe those would be installed this week if we're, if this is approved.
Say again, right?
I think that those would get installed this week if this change order is approved.
I'll make a motion to approve change order number 7.
second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Number 12, discussion regarding lead-free South Dakota water line inventory.
I'll invite Nate to come back up, their utility director, and let him walk us through this.
This was included in the pack for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is basically a summary, this sheet that you found in your package, it's a summary of what we're gonna bring on as a project. Roxy's been working hard establishing a team and roles of that team out there as far as getting this inventory done. This is kind of a federal initiative that the state took over, now it'll be our responsibility. Even though we do not own the individual service lines in the city of Madison, we are still gonna facilitate the counting and the inventory of these lines. So this platform's kind of the kickoff for it all. Want to come bring it to the commission's attention. And from there on, we'll start getting it out in utility bills and doing some media blasts. Because we need our customers to participate in this to be able to get it completed. We have till next fall to get it completed, and we want to get it done as fast as possible. Any questions on that?
No, the question that I had in here and, may just need some public acknowledgement is when it says check your pipe here, it looks like in the picture that it's underground. When actually it's in the basement and is what connects to your water meter.
Correct.
And so that's one of the things I think, as we visit with the public and to make that clear, because some have looked and said, I gotta dig down in my ground to find this, and the answer is no, it's wherever your water service comes in. You can take a look at it, and in a lot of the newer homes, and that, correct me if I'm wrong, they're coming in plastic.
Correct.
And so you can visually take a look at it and you know right away. And Roxy may remember in that way back, a number of years back, I believe we took out the last lead line that was known in Madison. That was when Fred was there. So So hopefully that's the last known.
So if you have a lead line on your property, is it your responsibility to replace that lead line?
At this time, yes, there still hasn't been good guidance come down from the state or the federal level on how that's gonna be handled, especially when the city doesn't own that line, but it will, I imagine more guidance will come out as this.
And they'll be
project
required
goes
to
on.
replace that line?
Hard to say.
The one thing that will be required is if they were to sell their property and that, it would have to be, notified, to the buyer that it is present if they choose not to.
And they may leave it up to the local level to decide how they what they wanna put in for ordinances as far as addressing it or how local bodies wanna handle facilitating that change, so. There's a lot of what ifs up in the area.
I was just gonna say, there's a lot of unknowns. We don't know exactly how this stuff will shake out, but we do know there's gonna be some federal funding that is out there. And one way or another, it's gonna be used to help replace these lead lines, and we're just not sure in detail. at this point.
It'd be nice if we could capitalize on that, not put that burden on our homeowners if we could, but.
Yeah, if possible. There's some talk that those funds might need to go directly through the homeowners to replace the lead lines. At this point, we just don't know anything for certain.
Right.
Do we have any idea of how much we have out there? I mean, is it 2% or 20% or?
I've heard numbers from staff that it's gonna be pretty low, probably under 3%. Just the numbers I had doing the conversion in my head with the raw numbers that I've heard, so.
And our staff has started an inventory. Any idea, Nate, can you give a number to as far as to how complete we are on our community inventory?
Well, I know they focus their efforts mostly on the old part of town and I would turn to Roxy.
I can tell you, I had a meeting this morning or this afternoon, and I can tell you statewide, there's been 300 people that have reported in is all. Statewide.
Statewide.
I think Jan said they've done about 200 in our town that have not been reported to the state. That's on top of it. But I think Jan said they started with a lot of the businesses downtown and did about 200 of them.
And that's something Jan and Roxy have been working on with engineering as well, as far as getting what they have for records in those surveys recorded into the state system, as well as maintaining a database within so we can stay current as well. So that's all started to happen.
Do we know when they stopped using lead pipe?
1987.
87.
87?
Well, they said anything built after 1987 should be safe, but they still have to complete the survey.
Yeah.
Most of them were installed between like 1908 and 1925, but they weren't officially banned until 1987.
I will say the important thing is too, not only that they fill out the survey, but they have to attach a picture of their line coming in also. So I think that's gonna be important for the citizens to know when they do this, make sure that they got a picture of it. It's all part of the survey.
Do we
So now
consider it an
we'll-
incentive to get people to
That's gonna come
participate?
down the pikes.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to just get the word out. Our thought process is let's get the word out right now and let people know what's coming. But we talked with Nate and hopefully we will be doing some incentives coming out down to.
Are you having them submit the information?
We're hoping that they'll go on and submit it through the survey.
The state website?
Electronically.
If they scan that QR code, it's gonna send them right to the survey. The survey is being handled through Bartlett West. The state contracted with them. So they're gonna do that, and then we're leaning on Chad Van Hummel quite heavily to get that information into our GIS. And then hopefully transfer information back and forth between our GIS and theirs, so that our map is updated and Chad will be instrumental in this too.
And they have also come up with a plan to facilitate anybody that might not have the technology means to accomplish it. We'll just have to support that with staff as it comes about. And they have a process and a plan for that as well, they've established, so.
Thank you. That was gonna be my next question for those people out there who just said, I don't know how to do this.
Right now, I think our hope, Nate, correct me if I'm wrong, I think our hope is that we can get the staff and you gentlemen to all do this and help us spread the word. So that's gonna be the first thing that we're gonna do. They will be going out in the first batch of utility bills on Thursday, I believe. And then the second batch go out, I think, August 14th on our round. And then we're gonna start doing the media blast starting tomorrow.
In a rental property, will that go to the renter?
Whoever's paying the bill. It'll go to whoever's paying the bill, but hopefully their renters will do it. We know we've got a lot of work ahead of us. And we honestly, we don't know what to put out to the public because we don't know what the questions are gonna be yet. We're trying to anticipate all of that. But we hope that as the questions start coming in, we'll know, we'll get on top of it and start answering their questions before they get to that point.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Okay. This here doesn't need to have a motion. Okay, number 13, update on, thank you, Nate. Update on the 2023 infrastructure improvement projects. And that, yes. Weston, Brian,
Thank you.
either vote.
All right, thank you, Mayor. And Ryan, I'll let you chime in whenever you feel necessary. You probably know more about the tower in phase 3 and just as much on the other projects as I do. I'll just follow as it's listed in the agenda. So on the RD projects, right now, the utility projects, the municipal projects in town are finishing completion as far as the surfacing work. In the last month or two, there's been a lot of headway made on phase 1B as far as the asphalt being placed. There's been a contractor working fairly diligently on getting concrete completed. So when that project meets substantial completion, we would have all 3 projects, phase 1A, phase 1B, and phase 2 at that substantial completion phase, and then working towards final completion. We did complete a punch list walkthrough today on phase 1B. So we generate a list, we'll compile that list and we'll send that to the contractor. They'll be able to review that, and then they'll be able to address that punch list and work towards that final completion. There has been some progress made on phase 2, which would be on the east side of town. That contractor's completed some of the punch list items. The city and myself had performed a walkthrough last week, and we were able to cross off some of those punch list items that were completed and compile a new list and send that to the contractor. From my understanding, they'd already started some of that work last week, and they'll continue that until they reach the final completion.
Yeah, on phase 2, I just spoke to the contractor before this meeting and anticipated they would be down tomorrow with the crew and the day after. They think they can get the rest of the items on those 2 days.
Anything on the RD projects that the commission would like?
Was
to
that
discuss?
also addressing the concerns and that some people have had with the boulevard dirt and rocks and that for the?
Yeah.
Okay.
If there's no questions on that, well, I should cover the water tower as well. That's part of the rural development project. So as everybody has probably seen, there's a new landmark in Madison. They raised the bowl. They did do the bowl attachment on Friday. So they poured a ring beam to attach that bowl. I'm not certain if they completed the roof on the tower, but that would be the next step. If they haven't completed that, they would put the roof on the tower, and then they would work towards painting the tower, which would likely happen in August. Following that, it'd be final inspections and commissioning the tower.
I will say it went up quick, because I was down there in the morning and took pictures of it. And I thought, well, I'll come back and then a little later and then watch them lift it. And I came back 2 hours later and it was already up. So how it got the ground up there and that, it went up quick.
All that work had sat on the ground for over a year.
Yeah.
And took less than 2 hours to raise it.
Mhm.
We'll move on to the Northwest 9th Street project. That project's being completed by Winter Contracting. I'll work through the phases. I'll start in phase 2, but work from west to east. So phase 2C would be in front of the school. The contractor's been working on the west side of the project. They've completed most of the utility work in front of the school. They still have some storm sewer yet to be installed. Right now, there's a conflict with the gas line. And that gas line is part of a bigger switch over or changeover. They're abandoning one of the main lines that goes down 9th Street. So they have to do a tie over, and part of that tie over, one piece of it's done at Chicago, and the other tie over is done on the east side of the creek, east of Josephine. And so once they complete the tie overs, then they'll be able to attach the services, or they'll be able to tie the services over to the new main. And then they'll be able to abandon that existing gas main, allowing Winter to complete their storm sewer work. So the hope was last week that would be completed. It's not. Anticipating that this week the welding will be complete to where they can do this changeover. And Winter will be able to complete their storm sewer work. So following that, they have a roadway contractor come in and work on reconstruction of that roadway in front of the school. Right now, Winter has an underground crew working at Union Avenue, so they're completing the water and the sanitary utilities at Union. They should be completed with the sanitary by the end of the day. I didn't check on them at the end of the day, but that was scheduled to be completed. And then they would move over to Josephine, and they do have a water main tie-in at Josephine. So there will be some limited access through Josephine, probably coming up towards the later part of this week. But at that time, Union would be open, so that way that access can still be maintained to residents north of 9th Street.
Now, just a question on that natural gas, changeover and that. Do they have, a listing of people who will be affected in that when they switch over and that? So that we don't have someone with a pilot light or something that doesn't get relit?
I do not know that, that would have to be coordinated with Northwestern.
Well, they came out because they did it on 6th Street and they went into the houses and put the pilots.
Okay.
If they wanted, people wanted the pilot lift.
It's part of the procedure.
Yeah,
They did it with me.
Very
they
good.
did with you.
No, I've had no communication whatsoever.
Cause that would be a concern, you know, having had two experiences last year. You know, with the one up on 11th and one up on Lake, so just making
No,
sure
yeah, absolutely.
when the gas comes back on, that everything's, you know, in proper working order.
And I would assume that is part of their procedure, that they do that when they, you know, disrupt service to the homeowner, that they notify them. I guess if that is the case, I would.
I live 2 houses down from Mr. Shaw, and I have received no notification about gas. And we got less than 24 hours notification that the water was being shut off by a sticky note left on our door. That could have blown away in the wind or anything else. Very, very, very poor communications.
The Northwestern, I guess the suggestion would be to contact Northwestern if there's a question on their service. So once the contractor does complete the work in Josephine intersection, they will have to go back through the Union intersection with storm sewer. So that storm sewer is gonna be laid from downstream to upstream. So they would start at Josephine and lay that back upstream through Union Avenue. So there will be another disruption probably in the next couple of weeks on Union Avenue as well. But at that time, that traffic will be switched back over to Josephine to allow access. Following that work, they'll continue to the east end of 9th Street and then work up Union Avenue with the new utilities and the road reconstruction. Ryan, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't think so. Maybe just mentioning the completion date. The substantial completion date west of Josephine is August 11th, so that's coming up very, very soon. And they'll do their best to make that date.
How do you feel about that completion date?
I think it's gonna be difficult. Because that August 11th is completion of the entire roadway.
Access to the elementary when the school opens.
Is gonna be the primary focus, so.
Okay.
Well, they get it done in front of the school there, then
Yeah,
we avoided the other side of 9th Street
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
Is the delays related to the Northwestern again, or is it?
Some of it, I mean, it is definitely a factor, and it's not the only factor, so.
there's the storm sewer installation in front of the school. You know, they installed that storm sewer a month ago, or close to 3 weeks ago, maybe. So that could have been done if there wasn't a decommissioning of the old main and a new main installed. So there is a delay. I would say some of that was a planned delay to where Northwestern had said, once the removals take place, we'll come in and we'll do some of this work. They did go in ahead of time and do some preliminary work with relocating the gas line. It's just some of this work had to happen in concurrence with the utility construction.
I would note that, the original plan too was to start with this phase 2A in the far east, get the utilities in and work quickly going to the west. And pretty early on, they encountered some questions and problems with the boring underneath the creek there. And while they were figuring out what to do there, they started bouncing around to other areas. So to the contractor's credit, they were trying to keep busy moving other areas along the stretch or along the project. But at the same time, that wasn't as efficient and moving as quickly as we would like. I would say that Ryan has requested an updated realistic timeline from the contractor, and so by the next commission meeting, we should have an update there.
You track franchise agreements? Is that your department?
My department, or, I'm aware of the franchise agreement with the gas company, but I think that's all filed in the finance office, I believe.
Yeah, they're both, removable.
Do we know where we sit with that agreement?
I don't think I can pull it. Look at, last time we looked at it.
Thank you.
There's no more questions on Northwest Ninth. I'll move on to segment 3. Segment 3 is on the east side of town. It stretches from 5th Street to 9th Street on Roosevelt. And then there's a segment of work on 6th Street, 8th Street, and Maplewood Drive. At this time, the contractor is completing phase 1 and phase 2 of this project, which is on 6th Street between Prairie and Roosevelt. And on 5th Street, on Roosevelt between 5th and 7th. They have completed some of the removals. They've completed some of the asphalt removals on 6th Street. And they've completed some of the asphalt removals at 5th and Roosevelt. Their schedule is to complete the water main utility on 6th Street first. They've been working on that last week and into this week. They're planning to have the water main installed by the end of the day tomorrow, and that'll just be the water main. They'll have to test that out before they connect services to that. In the meantime, while they're doing their disinfection and their pressure testing on that main, they'll start installing the water main on Roosevelt between 5th and 7th. The schedule that Prunty Construction has provided shows that they'll have the water main work completed on 6th Street, likely by the end of next week or into that following week, which would be July 31st, I believe. And the roadway reconstruction would take place the second week of August. That roadway reconstruction would likely take place on both Roosevelt and 6th Street concurrently at the same time. So there will be limited access, no access and some limited access on both Roosevelt and 6th Street during that work.
Now, currently, they have half of the asphalt. Is the entire asphalt being removed and replaced on 6th?
On 6th, half of that asphalt will remain.
Okay.
It'll be milled, and then the whole street will be overlaid with asphalt. So there will be a new 2-inch asphalt surface over everything.
And so when they get the water done, will they provide us access to those that don't have an alley behind our place? On that portion of the road that's still there?
Some of that may depend on the construction, on just scheduling. So if their roadway reconstruction contractor does come in, directly after they complete the water main installation, then likely not.
Okay.
I guess I wouldn't anticipate that would be opened up until they do get their roadway reconstruction work done. Because they need access. There's a lot of cutouts for the water services. So if they have to go in and continue to fill those cutouts, it's gonna take much longer for them to complete the work.
Can we ask about after hours access and weekend access? I mean, I'm just speaking for somebody, I work at the hospital part-time. I work in the emergency room. I know that there's no notifications been made to them. I think of things like the big fire that happened a couple weeks ago. We walked out of our houses at the same time today. There's no way a fire truck would get to your house or my house. Came home yesterday, this is, and a personal business, came home yesterday with a trailer load full of very, very, very wet camping supplies that need to dry out and got permission, and there's been people driving in and out. You know, this morning I talked to the mayor, my neighbor texted me and said, both sidewalks are closed, how are we supposed to get anywhere? Walk through a neighbor's yard, well, we have a neighbor behind us that does not like us walking in her yard, and that is literally our only option. My daughter came home from band practice a little after 4 o'clock. And that's when the dirt was being moved in front of your house, and she said it scared her, and the construction guys have been fantastic. They really have been good. Stacy down the street she was gonna be here and had a family emergency, she wanted to point that out. I personally haven't had to deal, this has been my first day home. But I just kind of feel like weekends, fire, EMS, any of this kind of stuff is really valid points for us, and to be kind of trapped inside your house and not even be able to pull a wagon down the sidewalk. I was told to walk around the sign today.
Well, and I
I
visited
mean,
with
is that gonna
Ryan.
be permission to drive around the signs if
Yeah.
it's a weekend? Is that gonna be? My daughter walks around the sign and a bunch of dirt gets dumped on her. I mean, there's a lot of things to consider when you're telling people to walk around signs.
Well, and as Ryan, correct me on that if I'm wrong, but the signs are put up there, you know, as I mentioned before, and it's primarily to keep looky-loos that aren't part of the neighborhood. But your sidewalk is open on your side and
I
the
don't think
materials that they
I
have.
wouldn't want my kids walking down the sidewalk, what was just happening today, would you?
Pretty crazy, yeah.
It was
Was it?
very crazy.
Okay,
And I'm, like I said, that's not on them, they have
Sure.
to do their job. But we also deserve to have access. If the neighbor behind me says we can't walk through, I can't trespass on her lawn.
mhm.
That's what we've been doing this whole time. And the other side is completely dug up, which means.
Yeah, going across the road and that is dug up. And backing out of your driveway, I'd be concerned right now too, that if somebody backed out a little too far and dropped off, that automobile was not going anywhere until it's picked up.
Right.
Cause it's a pretty good sized drop off. But the
Well, I
side-
have, mine's completely gone, so I have,
Mhm.
you know,
So,
even just access to park in front of the house, or my number one concern is things like EMS or fire. Does fire even know? Cause I know our EMS does not know any of the construction going on in town, because they'll come back with an ambulance and be like, yep, here we mapped it out and whatever, went to the house and nope, road was closed, we had to find a new way in. So I know for sure that they're not being told. Has that been part of the plan?
I believe they are constructing ramps going in and out of Sixth Street on the weekends and.
No, there was a humongous pile of dirt, you couldn't get in and out. That was yesterday.
and they had at least 3 dump truck loads of gravel
Absolutely.
on the north side, so there was no way of getting
You
in.
could go down the alley behind, is it Mr. Comus? You said?
Gomez?
Yeah, you could go down the alley there, cut across with some big, probably 8-inch pipes sticking out. And I personally was able to get my little car and trailer up around and do it, but there's no way a 40-foot fire truck is gonna get through that. There's no way. Ambulance, maybe. And granted, at least the ambulance has a cart they can, you know, run down the sidewalk with, but that's lives and time.
The contractor has been asked to provide to provide access for emergency vehicles on each side of the Sixth Street work. And so we can follow up with the contractor and make sure that that's being relayed to their people on site, so that way it's being done.
Yeah, cause there would have been no way anybody could have gotten down there this weekend, cause they had the forks blocking the other side of it, plus a huge mountain of dirt. Which I get, they're trying to do work, but which brings up good points too.
Yeah.
And they're concerning.
Do we identify that in our project scope or?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's just
Enforcing it.
enforcing it or being missed or neglected.
Yeah, so it was covered in the pre-construction meeting as well. Okay, so that they've been asked to do that work.
Thank you.
Or to provide that. The sidewalk. Generally on these projects, the sidewalk has been closed for through pedestrian traffic. But it has been allowed for the residents that live along that block or along that sidewalk to gain access using the sidewalk. Understand that when construction's happening adjacent to the sidewalk, it does make for somewhat of a dangerous situation for pedestrians, especially children. In that case, if, we can talk to the contractor about doing some type of temporary fencing. If there would be some benefit, or if we'd see some benefit.
They're gonna
doing
be
it.
done on 6:30 in about a day.
They will have water services to come back and.
Right, which is fine, but I mean, a majority of the digging is probably going to be done
Yeah,
this week.
yeah. They will have open holes at times right up to the sidewalk during that work.
So one other question that the neighbor down the street wanted to bring up, and I think I know she's spoken at some point with things, she sent me some pictures over last week when I was gone. In front of her house, and I believe my next neighbor's house, humongous holes were dug in, it might be between mine and Amber's house, I don't know exactly which street they were. Where the entire root system was completely removed. And the concerns are, I know she spoke with them today because they came out and trimmed some branches she was worried about because they were just torn off. Can we get an arborist to come in and say, because these trees are now not balanced anymore, what happens when you dig a 8-foot wide hole by 4 or 5, I don't know, boulevard 4 or 5 feet. And take out a massive part of your root system? We get another windstorm come through here like we did last year, and those trees fall, where's the responsibility lie on some of that? And why, if that much root was being removed, why didn't those trees just get removed? And those are the questions that, 2 houses down, that they have. And I know she's been bringing those points, ahead. I can show you pictures.
They're on the boulevard. We can have to remove them.
So this was.
It was when they did the actual tree removal.
Yeah.
They came through with the excavator and just started snapping branches off.
Well, it wasn't even just that, it's,
The snap branches off the trees that were not scheduled to be removed.
Well, they were snapping them off on the city side of the road. But instead of using the chainsaw, they just used the excavator.
this is the holes that were dug, and this is entire root systems that she sent me. So you're talking massive holes being dug and removed root systems out of these trees. And I believe this is the one between mine and Amber's house, and then the one down the street. So humongous holes.
Alex is gonna have our arborist come and take a look at the. Yeah,
They're aware now, and so they'll check into it.
There you go.
yeah. Alex Ballbig, who is the main engineer on that project, is aware of the trees and was talking about having an arborist come and take a look at this.
And also on that, I just messaged these 2 other neighbors, and neither one of them have ever had any notice from the gas company.
Yeah, they went over to Matt Reese's and asked him if he wanted his pilot light relit.
Yeah, this was Amber and Stacy, neither one of them have been asked.
Well, it was probably during the day and they may not have been home when they were doing this.
So that makes it worse, really, when you think about it, if our pilot lights are out and we don't get notified.
Brian or Weston, as far as the gas company go, I mean,
Yeah.
that's not our responsibility. right?
No, that would be the gas company would do that. We wouldn't get involved in their operations.
But as a citizen, how are we supposed to know if the gas got shut off? I'm not saying anything to us.
Again, that's
Again,
a question for the gas company.
Yeah, and rely on the gas company to convey that.
Yeah, I just want to back up too and touch on the fire department thing. We do get notifications actually countywide when there's road closures. But with projects moving this fast, probably not done as well as they should have.
The dirt mounds were what got me coming home and seeing that. I'm like, if I can't.
Let's continue moving forward.
Well, that completes the update for the infrastructure projects currently taking place.
All right, and that's just an update, so there isn't any motion required. So with that, we'll move on. Do we have any public comment?
No, nothing.
Thanks, Seth. No.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, next regular meeting will be August 7th at 5:30 p.m. And at this point in time in that, do we have a motion to go into executive session?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we are in executive session.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Weston.
Well,